X-Men need to unite and come together in order to save the entire multiverse, and I think there's only one person for the job. That's Deadpool. Deadpool is in such an odd place right now where it's going to be hard to fit him in with the MCU, but it would be weird if they didn't include him. So what can they do? Well, today on CBR Saga, we'll be discussing how Deadpool not only will help unite the Avengers and the X-Men, but also might be the most important person in the whole multiverse. Let's get started. I brought in my good friend, Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
Doing good, Jacoby. Haven't been back in a while, but it's a good time to be here.
I know, it's like I barely have you on the show at all. Jeez. I'm excited to talk about this because I love Deadpool. I mean, who doesn't, right? After, the Deadpool comics and the Deadpool movie kind of shot Deadpool into superstardom. He is such a important character and, kind of a big moneymaker, and I think important for adult superhero movies. What are your thoughts of Deadpool overall, his impact on superhero movies?
Deadpool in many ways changed the game. He didn't invent the R rating, but he took it to a whole new level to where we got movies following that maybe we wouldn't have gotten. And Deadpool as a character is so unique and so special and so tailored to the person playing him, more so than a lot of other superheroes. I think when you think of people talking about, perfect casting, a lot of people mention Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. A lot of people mention Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is right up there. So I'm excited to see what happens with Deadpool next. I'm worried about him being able to fit in where he's going next, but I think there's a way.
I think so too, actually, because I just think he's got to be. He is such an important character, and fans relate to him and love his adventures so much that you can't not bring him over, because now we're in a massive situation with Fox being sold to Disney and Disney being the overlords that they are. Now have the MCU, and they're going to start bringing in the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all the other Fox properties. And the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are relatively easy to kind of do, right? They're easy to incorporate, and it won't be that much of a problem. Deadpool presents this whole different headache, but it feels like it needs to be done, because I think he needs to be in this new version of the MCU that they're building towards, and not just be out on his own. What do you think? Do you think he needs to be involved?
I don't think you can just ignore him, and more so, I don't think you can just say, hey, we've got all our properties back from Fox, we bought them all, and we're going to eventually, even if not right now, incorporate them into the MCU. But Deadpool's just too weird, so we're going to keep him completely separate, completely unrelated. I think that would feel weird.
I agree with that. So let's kind of talk about ways that we can include him in a way that kind of makes sense. So kind of the first sort of idea that I had while thinking about ways to do this is we've talked a lot about the different multiverses and the different universes and how that's going to happen. I imagine a situation, this might be a fun one and it might be a little different, but what if our heroes in the MCU suddenly woke up one day and the X-Men and Deadpool and the Fantastic Four were all part of the MCU, we're all there. They all woke up and everything was okay and nobody quite knew what was going on. And that creates these tensions, that creates this sort of uneasy power struggle between whatever the X-Men were back in their own universe and the Avengers now, because it's just difficult. It's new kid on the playground. How are they going to interact with that? And nobody has any idea what just happened, really, except for one character, and that's Deadpool. Yeah, so you have these two sides of everything. You have the Avengers and you have the X-Men, and they don't know what's going on. But Deadpool is the one with the knowledge of it's we were two separate universes. We were in our own different areas, and now we're combined together. And he's the only one who remembers that sort of thing, and therefore he is the one who has to be hey, Wolverine, don't go crazy on these Avengers. Hey, Avengers, it's okay, we're from a different universe. And by putting him in that position of omniscience, then he kind of becomes more important, and his craziness can be written off as part of this crazy new universe that they're in. Huh? A little bit of a stretch, but
a little bit, but you're pitching some elements from Deadpool stories in the past where sort of he knows what's going on. He breaks the fourth wall. He's aware that he's in a comic book kind of thing, and it's always just written off to the other characters as Deadpool's a nutcase. when in reality he actually knows more about the real, quote unquote, real world than any other character. So I like what you're pitching. If there's sort of this catalyst that collides these two worlds. And Deadpool is aware of it, and he's aware that he's in a movie that's being made by a director, and all these things are happening. The other characters could write it off, but he also could serve as that sort of explanation to these characters, at least that their universes are now together.
See, that's what I like about it, because we as an audience will see that as him being his Deadpool character, but that won't necessarily break the foundation of the disbelief around, like, when other characters interact with him and Deadpool starts breaking the fourth wall. You know, won't that be a little odd? But I don't think so when you look at it as these other characters just think Deadpool's kind of crazy and kind of nuts and talking to nobody, and that's why he's so in tune with what's happening. And I think that's a way to balance, you know, the kind of the two sides of Deadpool's character with this new version of the MCU that they're creating.
And it can definitely be done too, because they've sort of started that in the Deadpool movies themselves. They have characters who exist who see Deadpool talking to the camera and just think he's talking to nobody. So they've sort of set that up already. Like people like Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead just think he's crazy when he's actually talking to the audience.
Agreed. Is that kind of how do you perceive the situation? Do you think there's an easier way to kind of do this?
Easier? I don't know if that's quite the word. But I have had this idea for a while, and it makes me sad because I don't think Disney would ever do it. But
those jerks.
There's a comic book storyline. It's actually one of my favorites. It's called Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. I would like to adapt it and sort of maybe make Deadpool 3 Deadpool Kills the Fox Marvel Universe. So you get a movie where Deadpool, the whole point of the story is Deadpool learns this terrible secret and they don't reveal what it is till the end, and he sort of goes around killing all of the characters of the Marvel Universe until finally he reveals that the secret he has learned is that he lives in a comic book. Everyone lives in a comic book, none of their lives are real, and he actually escapes the comic book at the end and goes into like the writer's room.
Right.
What I'm pitching for this movie, Deadpool Kills the Fox Marvel Universe, is Deadpool learns that he's in a movie, and he has to go to all of the X-Men we've known, you know, like Halle Berry's Storm and Cyclops, and Jean Grey and all these characters that we've seen in movies, and he kills them. He has to take them out, and he could even go to like Ben Affleck's Daredevil, Jennifer Garner's Elektra, all the Fantastic Fours, and this could be the movie. And maybe you finally get that Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds face-off that everyone's been wanting. You get Hugh Jackman in one last time, and Deadpool sort of ends this universe. And then you put a twist on it because he realizes he's in a movie. He jumps into the directing studio instead of the comic writer's studio. And he goes in and says, hey, you're not going to want to see this, but the director, or maybe you get like Kevin Feige coming in and actually saying, hey, Deadpool, we're actually going to merge your universes now. So you're going to live in the Disney universe, and we're sending all the X-Men with you. From a separate universe, not the ones he just killed, but played by different actors. That way we don't have to keep using James Marsden and Famke Janssen and things like that.
Okay, I like that because, it's brutal.
It's wild, it's out there. I don't think Disney would ever do it, but I would love it more than anything.
I would love to see you pitch this to Disney, and just be like, okay, I know this is a little off-brand for you guys, but I want Deadpool to kill everybody in there, and then talk about it, and just see what they say. But there's an element in there that I really like. It's just like the element of Deadpool knows that their universe isn't the right universe anymore. And this is kind of a very loose pitch that I'm talking about. Like, what if Deadpool is kind of stuck in his universe, right? And he's the only one not brought over. He wakes up in Deadpool 3 and he realizes none of the X-Men are there anymore. And he doesn't understand what's happened. And it's because all the X-Men were brought over to the MCU and under this umbrella. And Deadpool is too vulgar and too R-rated to brought over. So his whole movie, where he goes on this mission to kill the Marvel Universe and to even find Kevin Feige, is to be involved in the fun. Like, he has to work his way out of his movie to the producing side of it to be like, yeah, I can be in the MCU too. See, like, I don't have to swear. I don't have to, be bloody. Like, I want to play with all my friends type thing. And then when he arrives there, that's what kind of leads to, like, when he finally is toned down and stuff, that's what leads him to be like, okay, I know who the X-Men are. I know who the Avengers are. Let's kind of be friends here. Or, the Avengers and the X-Men look at Deadpool and just be like, oh, okay, this guy's crazy. Let's be friends so we don't have to be friends with Deadpool. And then Deadpool's
they could bond over. They could bond over making Deadpool an outcast.
Exactly. That's what's going to unite them, is their dislike of Deadpool and his rules.
Absolutely.
We kind of talked about how Deadpool, we've presented a few options of how Deadpool can't get over to the MCU, but like once he's there, what does his future hold? Like, if he is a common lynch point between, the Avengers and the X-Men, what does that mean for future Deadpool stories? Can he be fully involved, talking with both sides in like a lot of the normal MCU movies, a lot of the normal X-Men movies, like these new ones, and still work and still keep his Deadpool spirit? I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not too sure either, because I liked your pitch before, but you said like, I'm Deadpool, I'll be good, I'll live in this universe and I won't swear and I won't, the blood will be gone. That sort of takes away from the character of Deadpool. So I would almost rather Deadpool sort of come in, connect these people who don't know each other, because, he has the ability to do that, and then sort of see him take off. I think Deadpool should stand on his own in the universe, but like in a separate universe where you're allowed to swear. And I think you could make it a joke where like he comes in and he tries to swear. He comes into like the PG-13 universe and he swears and it like bleeps out and he recognizes that he's being censored. And there's a lot of like funny things you could do with that. But I think at the end of the day, if you take away the violence and the snark involving, crude language, you're sort of taking away a lot of Deadpool's character.
I would actually like to see because I agree with you. I think he needs to be Deadpool. He can't be, for a while I was one of those like, okay, if he's in the MCU, it actually would be kind of funny to like, it would only work because he knows he's in an MCU movie now and like he can't cuss and like he's curious on why he can't be that violent. But I think that only works for a short period of time before, we just want the old Deadpool back. So I kind of want to twist your pitch of Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel universe, where Deadpool saves the Fox Marvel universe somehow. Like I want a Deadpool 3 to be about him helping with the merger. Like Deadpool, like all of a sudden his universe is in danger and he doesn't know why. And the only way to beat it is by helping Kevin Feige and Fox come to a deal together, and then he gets all of his friends over there and they escape and they go there. But when he arrives in the universe and be like, okay, this is how I reunited you guys, and now Deadpool is the hero. Deadpool does everything. When he doesn't like the MCU because of everything that that he's not allowed to do, so then he leaves without people kind of recognizing it. So then he was kind of a part of the MCU. He was very vital in the MCU in bringing these two together, but then gets to go off into his own universe where he can be all bloody and cuss like he wants to do, with him being the ultimate savior of all of this.
Absolutely. No, that actually works in my head a lot more than I thought it would. Deadpool being like the actual savior of the universe and then going back and thinking but everyone else in the universe just thinks he's some crazy nut. Something I just thought of that could actually make this transition a lot smoother. If you think of Deadpool 2, that movie involved time travel. Cable is from the future. And then there's this sort of end credit sequence, or mid-credit sequence maybe, where Deadpool goes to all these points in time. He goes to X-Men Origins Wolverine and kills his old self. He goes to the real world and kills Ryan Reynolds. And it's played off as a joke, but thinking about it now, what if you sort of made it that Negasonic Teenage Warhead, in fixing Cable's device, essentially discovers the same kind of time travel that Tony Stark did in Endgame. So now Deadpool, this wild, crazy character, has this device that essentially allows him to go to different universes. And we've already seen it. He's gone to the real world. He's gone to this universe when he kills himself as an actor. You could essentially start off Deadpool 3 saying he has this device and he's just been universe hopping. He's been, and again, because
just casually.
Deadpool is such a cool meta character. I want to see something cool and meta done with him. He could hop back into the real universe where he kills himself as Ryan Reynolds and meet Kevin Feige, meet the studio execs at Marvel, and even like sit down in a boardroom with them and talk about how we're going to merge the X-Men and the Avengers. And then he hops back into his universe, and just because he told a writer in the real universe to collide them, that's what causes the collision of the two universes.
I love that. I love that, because I actually think that solves a really big problem with Deadpool 2. It's just like, where are they going to go from here? Because sure, Deadpool probably doesn't care that much about continuity or everything like that, but he has this very powerful device now. Like, what's going to happen to that? Like, they could either write it off as a joke of just like, oh yeah, it broke, because I used it too much, and Vanessa is back alive apparently at the end of it, and all the consequences from Deadpool 2 are no longer there. Using your theory of using that device to sort of, herald this change of universes is actually, I think, really smart and a great way to continue it, because what we're suggesting is going to be very tricky, because it seems like a lot of them involve meetings with Kevin Feige and meeting the actual people involved, and that's a very big jumping the shark moment, right? Like that needs to be handled very well, because if it doesn't, then it's going to look, it might not go well. But I think by tying it in back to like technology that was already established in the second movie, at least provides a bit more connectivity. So I actually like that a lot.
Great.
Great.
Deadpool,
Sold.
master time traveler.
I think overall, Deadpool is such a fascinating character. We love Deadpool. We love everything that Deadpool stands for and what he can bring. Including him in the MCU and is going to be difficult because he just doesn't seem to fit there. But I think there are certain ways in order to include him that will make sense for the character. And I hope we see that, because it just feels like keeping him apart from all of his friends doesn't seem like the right thing to do. Any final thoughts about Deadpool?
Yeah, I think the last sort of simplest option for Deadpool is you just bring him over with everyone else. And he doesn't have to be the person that explains everything to everyone, though I would like to see that. But he could just be the same person he was in Deadpool 1. He's not a team player. He flies solo. And that's the reason for not including him in Avengers movies or in, Thor movies or in the greater MCU. And he still gets his own movies in a pocket of that universe. I think that could work just as well. Though I think Deadpool is the chance to do some of these wild, outlandish meta concepts that the comics of Deadpool have brought us. And part of me really hopes that Disney is willing to sort of take that leap.
What I think is really funny is that we just pitched, like, I imagine we're in the writer's room, right? And we're pitching all these sort of crazy meta ideas that got increasingly more insane as we kind of went on. But it's just like with everything that could happen and try to fit him in. And then you, like, just sitting in the back, just raises his hand and just says, let's just bring him over. And then, like, that's it. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, he's just there. And then let's go from there. Then that's problem solved, everyone.
Then I get kicked out of the meeting for boring thinking.
Yeah, it's like we need super meta. Anyway. Yeah, but I love it. I loved a lot of the ideas that we talked about. So I would like to thank you so much, Nick, for joining me on this Deadpool discussion. Talking about Deadpool and the MCU is always such a blast. And I would like to thank you, listeners, for listening to our rants and pitches. Which one did you like best? How would you bring Deadpool into the MCU? Tell us your best ideas. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.